and welcome back to another math lesson. Today, fifth graders, we're going to continue working on area, perimeter, and volume, except today we're going to work on developing and using formulas. All right, let's jump into our learning target for today. Our learning target says, I can solve practical problems that involve perimeter, area, and volume by developing and using formulas. Before we get started, make sure that you have out a piece of paper. At the top of that piece of paper, label it formula sheet. We're going to use this sheet of paper today to keep track of the formulas that we come up with. Now, let's find the formula for area. Area is the number of square units needed to cover a surface or plane figure. Let's say for this example that this represents 1 square unit. If I wanted to find the area for this shape, I would need to add all of my square units together in order to come up with the area. Now I could do that by saying 1 square unit, 2 square units, 3 square units, 4 square units. But instead of doing that, there's a formula that I can use that would save me a little bit of time. That formula is area, so I'm just going to put A, equals length times width, or L times W as an abbreviation. I know that my length, looking at this shape, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. I know that my width is 1, 2, 3 units. So if I wanted to find the area, I could say 5 times 3 equals 15 units, and I could put a 2, and that 2 represents squared. So 15 units squared, or I could write 15 square units. Either one will work. And if I actually go in and check that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 square units. And that's the formula for area. Pull out your formula sheet, and on it, let's add in the formula for area. We just figured out that area equals length times width. Or you can write that as A equals L times W. Now, let's say I'm working with the same two numbers, except this time I want to find perimeter. I'm going to say that this side represents 5 centimeters, while this side represents 3 centimeters. Now, I know that perimeter is the path or distance around any plane figure. So if I want to find the perimeter of this rectangle, I know I need to add all of my sides together. I know that the length of this side is 5 centimeters, which means that the opposite side is also going to be 5 centimeters. If this side is 3 centimeters, I know that this side is going to be 3 centimeters. Now, if I want to figure out the perimeter, there are a few different formulas that I can use. One is perimeter equals length plus width plus length plus width, meaning I could add 5 plus 3 plus 5 plus 3. Another way that I could find perimeter is I could add 2L plus 2W. And what this means is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. When this 2 is right beside the L, that means to multiply. So, for this one I could say 2 times 5 plus 2 times 3, and the answer would give me my perimeter. Another way I could find perimeter is by saying 2 times L plus W, meaning add the length and the width together. So in this case, add 5 plus 3 together, and then multiply that by 2 to get your perimeter. When I have something in parentheses, that means I need to do what's in the parentheses first. So I would add length plus width together first, 5 plus 3, and then multiply that by 2 to get my perimeter. So let's actually go in and solve for perimeter. I'm going to use this formula here. So 2 times the length. Well, to do that, I know I would need to take 5 times 2, which is 10, then 3 times 2, which is 6, and then 10 plus 6, which is 16 centimeters. So my perimeter here would be 16 centimeters. Now, let's say I was looking back at my blocks here, or my cubes, and I wanted to find the perimeter of this figure. Well, to find the perimeter of this, I would have to add all of my line segments together going around the outside. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So that's perimeter, and those are the different formulas for perimeter.
We just learned some new formulas that we can add to our formula sheet. The first one is perimeter equals length plus width plus width. We know that these are the formulas for the perimeter of a rectangle. So I'm going to add rectangle over top of these formulas. We also learned that perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, or 2L plus 2W. Finally, we learned that perimeter equals 2 times the length plus the width. Because I have parentheses there, I add length plus width first, and then I multiply that by 2. And if you're finding the perimeter of a square, we can add in that perimeter equals 4S.
Here I have a rectangular prism. I want to find the volume of this rectangular prism. This time, I'm going to say that 1 unit equals 1 unit cubed, or 1 cubic unit. So if I want to find the volume of this rectangular prism, first I need to determine the length. I know that the length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I know that the width is 1, 2, 3. I know that 5 times 3 is 15. So I know that this top layer represents 15 cubic units. But if I want to find the volume, I have to take into account the height, which is 1, 2, 3. So I would have to take that 15 and multiply it by 3. 15 times 3 is 45. So I know altogether this rectangular prism has 45 of these cubic units. So our formula for volume is volume equals length times width times height.
Take your formula sheet back out And let's add in the formula for when finding the volume of a rectangular prism. We just learned that when finding the volume of a rectangular prism, the formula is length times width times height, which we can also write as V equals L times W times H.
Now let's try and find the formula for the area of a right triangle. But before we do, let's take note that the bottom of my triangle I call the base of my triangle. And the distance from the top of my triangle to the base of my triangle I call the height of my triangle. Now, let's get back to the problem. Here I have a right triangle, a triangle with a right angle. Let's just say, for the sake of this problem, that the base of my triangle measured 6 centimeters and the height of my triangle measured 4 centimeters. Now, if we were trying to find the area of the square, a rectangle, we know that area equals length times width. So, if I add another triangle to the triangle I already have, I could say that the area of this now square would be 6 times 4, which equals 24. And we're talking about area, so it's centimeters squared. But we're not finding the area of a square, we're finding the area of a triangle, which is half of that square. If you can't see it that way, then take a look at it this way. Here again, and I'm going to move this piece just for a second. Here again, we have a square. Here I have a triangle. Now we're going to say that this triangle represents half of the square. And I'm going to show this to you in a different way by cutting my triangle. And I'm going to put one piece there. And I'm going to put the other piece here. So you'll see again that triangle, even when I cut it, is still taking up half of the square. So that's where the half is going to come into play when it comes to our formula. Our formula for the area of a triangle is area, or A, equals 1/2, because we only want half when we're talking about a triangle, times base times height. Another way that you can say this is area of a triangle equals base times height. And I can just put B and H right next together, which means multiply, divided by 2, because I only want half. So I'm going to use this particular formula to actually go ahead now and find the area of this right triangle. So base times height, we already determined that that was 24. So now I have to take that 24 and divide it by 2. So I can put fraction bar divided by 2. 24 divided by 2 is 12 centimeters squared. So I'm going to write that in the middle of my triangle because that's my area. 12 centimeters squared is the area of this right triangle, and there are 2 different formulas that I can use to find the area of a right triangle.
Take your formula sheet out one last time, and let's add in the formula that we just learned for finding the area of a right triangle. Let's add in area of a right triangle equals 1/2 times base times height. Another way to find the area of a right triangle is space times height divided by 2.
Okay, so now let's go ahead and practice a few problems. Problem number 1. It says, Mark wants to buy a rug for his room that has a rectangular area of 80 square feet. From the choices below, what are the dimensions of the largest rug that he can put into his room? You'll notice that over here on the side, I have our formula sheet. Don't put that away yet. We're still going to use it to solve these problems together. Now, we know that Mark's room is 80 square feet, and I know that this problem says area, so I know that I'm going to have to use my formulas for area for this particular problem. If I look at A, and I want to find the area for A, 5 feet by 6 feet. Well, to find area, I know that I need to do length times width. So 5 times 6 is going to give me 30, and we're talking about area, so I have to watch my unit, square feet. B, I'm going to have to take 6 times 8, which is going to give me 48 square feet. C, I'm going to have to take 5 times 10, which is going to give me 50 square feet. And then finally D, 12 times 12, which is going to give me 144 square feet. So Mark's room is 80 square feet, so he is not going to be able to fit a rug that is 144 square feet in his room. So I'm going to eliminate D. He wants to get the largest possible rug that he can. So between 30, 48, and 50, I know that 50 is going to be the largest rug, which means that C is my answer. 50 square feet for that rug, and that's the largest one that he can fit in his room. Let's take a look now at problem 2. Problem 2 says, Guy has 27 feet of landscaping timbers to use as border around a flower bed. His wife, Jean, wants a square-shaped flower bed, with each side measuring 7 feet. He wants a rectangular-shaped flower bed, measuring 5 feet by 8 feet. Which shape will Guy be able to completely border the landscaping timbers? All right, the first thing that pops up to me in this problem is border. I know that border is talking about going around the outside. And when I'm talking about going around the outside, I know that I'm talking about perimeter. So I'm going to use one of my formulas for perimeter for this problem. Now, if I look at Guy's garden first and I try to find the perimeter of his garden, I'm going to use this third formula, which is length times width times 2. So I know that 8 plus 5 is 13, and then 13 times 2 is 26. So the perimeter around Guy's garden is 26 feet. If I look at Jean's garden, it's a square, which means that I have one side, and I know that if this side is 7, I know that all my other sides of this square are going to be 7 too, because the square has 4 equal sides. So I'm going to use my first formula, which is length plus width plus width. So I need to add 7 4 times, or multiply 7 times 4, which is going to give me 28 feet. So it takes 28 feet to build Jean's garden and 26 feet to build Guy's garden. So if I look at my answer choices now, A, there isn't enough timber to build a border around either one. That's not true because there's enough for Guy's. B, Jean's garden is the square. Nope, I couldn't build Jean's garden because her garden is 28 feet and Guy only has 27 feet. So that one's not true. C, there is enough landscaping timber to build either one. Again, not true because I don't have enough for Jean's garden. So D, Guy's garden, yes, there is enough materials to build his garden. So D would be my answer there. All right, let's try one last problem together. Problem 3. It says, look at the image. What is the formula for the volume of the rectangular prism? So I see the word volume, which means that I'm going to need to use my formula for volume for this problem. Now, I know that volume means length times width times height. So I'm going to have to take 3 meters, 5 meters, and 6 meters and multiply those together, which is my first answer choice. So there's my answer there. All right, guys, it's time for your practice set, which means it's time for you to practice a few problems on your own. Here are your practice set problems for today. Problem number 1 says, each side of a square field measures 24 meters. What is the area of the field? Problem 2, what is the perimeter of the same field? Problem number 3 says, Mrs. Johnson is constructing a box in the shape of a rectangular prism to store clothes for the summer. It has a length of 28 inches, a width of 24 inches, and a height of 30 inches. What is the volume of the box? And finally, problem 4 says, what is the area of the right triangle below? Notice on the triangle that the base is 20 centimeters and the height is 24 centimeters. And you have 4 different answer choices to choose from there. Pause the video here and solve these 4 problems. Press play when you are ready to check your answers. And remember, you can use a calculator this week to check your answers if you need to. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and check over your answers. Problem number 1, you should have used the formula for area, and your answer was 576 square meters, and you could have written that either way. Problem number 2, you could have used any of the formulas for perimeter, and your answer there was 96 meters, which you also could have written either way. Problem number 3, you should have used the formula for volume, and your answer was 20,160 cubic inches, which can be written either way. And finally, for problem number 4, you should have used one of the formulas for area of a right triangle, and your answer was the second option, which is 240 centimeters squared. All right, 5th graders, and that's all I have for today. Another great day. Thanks, everybody, and I hope you come back tomorrow for another math lesson. Bye. See you next time.